Blog Talk Radio. Welcome to Mindshifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeannie. Michael and Jeannie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rachma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeannie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeannie Ryce. To the brightness within you, and the truth that is rooted within me.
Hi, and welcome to Mindshifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce. And our call-in number is 646-200. A lot of noise on the radio already. Sorry. 646-200-4169. Press 1 to talk to Michael. And today is our Memorial Day celebration day number 239. And welcome to our show. Hi, Michael. Hello, Michael.
Welcome, everybody, to the show. We're delighted to be with you and honored to have the opportunity for one more day to support you in learning the Aramaic technology of forgiveness. We're in Sarasota, Florida right now. At least I am. Jeannie will be flying in on Sunday. And we just finished doing a Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop to an awesome audience at Unity in Sarasota. Tonight, we'll be doing a worksheet support group at 7 o'clock. Go ahead, Jeannie.
Oh, I was just going to say you're off tonight, but my apologies, you're doing something else.
Right. Marie has a support group that's been going on for a year, so tonight we'll be doing that support group at 7 o'clock. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we'll have a series of free workshops. And then on Saturday, we'll be doing Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing. So if you're in cold weather and you have the opportunity to spend some miles and you want to come and do some deep work, come and play with us. It would be awesome to have you here. Other than that, we do have the invitation, as we do every day when we open the show, to consider being part of the team that changed the world, putting an end to war on planet Earth. It's such time for that to happen. And what's our plan for doing that? How are we going to do that? Well, here's the plan. We're going to invite you and anybody and everybody that you bring to the show each day to look at least one issue where they have some form of hostility or fear that they're probably blaming somebody else for or blaming themselves. And we're going to invite you, instead of standing in that space of blame of self or others, to actually forgive. Unfortunately, nobody told us that forgiveness is the way to remove content from your mind and from your physiology. It is not about letting other people off the hook because there is painful content within you. Those who deny and dissociate from their painful content always have somebody else to blame for what's going on inside of them. It's always somebody else's fault. And so what we're looking to do is to invite everyone into responsibility. If you want to know how to forgive, listen to the show. We'll be talking about that as time goes along, depending on the questions that show up. And if you go to our website, www.whyagain.com, whyagain.com, on the right-hand side you'll see a link that says Download Worksheets. If you click on that link and download the first 4 links, that will tell you the whole story of how forgiveness works from the ancient Aramaic language. And so that's what we're here to support you in having and learning, and we're delighted that you're with us. Jeannie, do we have any callers or anything happening in the chat room that we can
There are no questions. We do have David and Tim both on with us, but there's no questions as yet.
Okay, welcome, gentlemen. How are you today?
Doing well, Michael. Hi, Jeannie. Nice to hear your voice. You're sounding well.
Doing
I'm getting...
Go ahead, Jeannie.
I was just going to say I'm getting there. My throat kind of flared up again this morning, but I'm moving in the right direction, I suppose.
Good.
Glad to hear it. Well, we're doing well here in Illinois. A little sinusy healing crisis myself, but other than that, doing fine. Drinking lots of the Master Cleanse and flushing with saline solution and plugging right along.
Anything we can do to support you, Tim?
Well, not that I'm aware of right now. I mean, we've had lots of things I've been processing through over the past few weeks and feeling good about it and in a good place, and just going to do more of the same. I've thoroughly enjoyed a couple things. The two books that I mentioned, the one that talks about willpower and organizing that are just like your pieces of work, and the Harville Hendricks book that are just echoing your things. Hold on, Michael, why don't you and Dave and Jeannie talk? I have to take another call here for a minute.
Okay, cool. We'll hold the space. So, David, do you have anything exciting on your mind today?
Well, it's a beautiful day here at Heartland. It's been a little bit cloudy and overcast, and it's just my sense that things are really moving for everyone. It seems that there's more people that are involved in taking responsibility for their life and creating a world where there is the space of love for people to connect and communicate with each other. It's nice to hear that you're going to be at Marie's support group this evening. I know that's going to be really powerful, and she's been doing such tremendous work over the last several months. Last several years, she's one of the people that has diligently done her work daily and played the game of 5 a day for 40 days. So it's nice that you're going to be there to support her and her group and taking it to the next level. And it must be nice to be there in Sarasota, Florida.
It is. Sarasota is absolutely beautiful today. It's probably about 75 degrees and sunny, so it's gorgeous. And Marie actually opened the workshop yesterday and asked the two questions that Jeannie usually asks in opening, and kind of set the stage. And we had a really nice-sized group and just awesome participation. So looking forward to working with those folks tonight in the the Mind Shifters group. So
yeah, nice, very nice.
Our calling number, by the way, is 646-200-4169. 646-200-4169. And seeing as how there are no callers and there are no questions in the chat room, I did have an interaction recently with a woman who really had a really excellent question to ask, and was deep in a process of moving through and healing some things, but confused about where to lie the blame for what was going on for her. And she was someone who had come from a home where she was abused, sexually, emotionally abused, and then into a relationship where there was more horrendous abuse, where it became a situation of, as a child, the dread of receiving the abuse that she was subject to in her own home, and then moving into a marriage where, logically she created another space for more abuse and more dread, and then, finally got the courage to move out of that relationship and moved into still another relationship where there was even more, and in a different way, more psychological abuse as opposed to physical abuse. And so had built up a pretty fair store of dread in her life. And of course, we've talked about many times the file folder effect in the mind, and that when you fire two files in the mind simultaneously, they link together. And so her question was that she was getting ready to go into a situation where, once again, she had dread. And the point being that the dread was an energy inside of her that once she hooked it up to this new situation, her mind showed her that this situation was dreadful and that she needed to be in dread in order to go into it. And the point being, and it really cracked open a space for her when she realized, okay, so I carry this dread around, yes, and I project it on virtually every situation. So I can only hang around somewhere for so long, and then I have to leave because the dread level gets too high. And the point that when we hook what's going on inside of us, something we've accumulated, especially over repeated experiences and over years, and we hook it into our brain's image of something outside of us, then we link that dread or that fear or that pain or whatever it is to that external circumstance, and in so doing, we dissociate from the root of the dread and make it unchangeable. And as it turned out, when we really started processing, it looked like actually the new situation was one where there was a tremendous amount of support, where there was no reason for dread whatsoever except that she could find, because, she had this load of dread in her from all these years, decades of abuse, she could find any little thing to hook it on. Oh, I dread this. Oh, what if this happens? Oh, when this took place. And could find 1,000 different things to link it to, but the whole thing was total projection. She carried it inside of her very deeply, very powerfully, very painfully. It's one of those, for her to get through it, it's going to be one of those 77 times 70 worksheet issues. And so when she'd hooked it into actually a current relationship she was in, and she would find something wrong in the relationship to hook her dread into. And so the input for her was, okay, so if you're hooking it into that relationship, just know that the more you unjustly hook your dread, fear into that relationship, and, any little thing or big thing can do, then the more you're going to tend to think that outside of you is the cause of what is inside of you. So in that situation, what the insight she got was when dread came up, she could see that she carried that, and there really was nothing in her life currently that deserved that kind of energy. And as she was able to see that, then when it came up, instead of hooking it into her brain's image of her partner and the situations in their lives, she was able to see that, oh, I carry this load. This is one of my 77 times 70 worksheet issues. I have lived under this kind of threat and this kind of trauma for so many decades that I just presume it's going to happen here, even though, there's nothing really that causes dread, though I found some things to hook it on. You've got to be careful. When you hold in your mind any form of hostility or fear, and a situation resonates that for you, you've got two choices. You either take responsibility and you forgive, you remove that energy, or you automatically hook it into your brain's image of them, and that's how relationships are destroyed. Relationships do not die. They cannot die. They have to be murdered. And when you refuse to be responsible for what's going on inside of you and hook it into your brain's image of any circumstance, and it doesn't matter whether it's a job, she would do this with her job, it doesn't matter if it was in her home, in her relationship, the least little thing that would be off with current goals, and all of a sudden, bang, there's this dread. And so to really be cognizant that instead of doing that, instead of destroying your relationships that way, to stop and go, oh, here I am, I'm carrying this again. Well, it's no surprise. I've been doing it for, several decades now. It's no surprise that this new relationship where there's no justification, I can find a place to hook it. I can find a place to hang it and blame that situation for it. So the invitation is to be aware if that kind of a dynamic, and it doesn't matter whether it's anger or sadness or grief or fear, whatever it is, that you be aware that when that comes up in you, that anger, sadness, dread, pain, whatever it is, tells you more about the content of the mind, your mind, than the world you think you're looking at. And it is the exact place that forgiveness is designed to be used, to remove that so that you are free of that, rather than hook it into, oh, well, I have this little detail, so I can say, I dread this, and get lost in the dynamics that I brought to the relationship. So each relationship becomes an opportunity to learn forgiveness, becomes an opportunity to move through what never belonged in us. And so I'd love to start that one off as a talking point for everybody, and see if anyone has any thoughts around what we've just said. Our call-in number is 646-200-4169. If anyone has any ideas for us, any thoughts, conflicting or otherwise, we'd love to hear from you.
We actually have 5 callers on the line. So the first one I think might be Nene. I'm not sure. It's 954-626. You're on the air.
Thank you. Hello, my heart family.
Hey, Nene.
Welcome back home, young lady. Share with us your trip to South America.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike, Jeannie, team, David. Yes, it was awesome. The most wonderful trip I've ever had. And it's in reference to whatever you just mentioned, and, make the comment how we carry our pain and sorrow, and we hook it to the experiences. And then when we clean it, the beautiful experience and the love that it's present, it's possible. I realized that cleaning my internal content and the little bit that my daughter did, through Skype and on the phone with me, when we saw each other, it was in a different, magical, loving space. For me, was like when I saw her face at the airport, it was like seeing her again when she was born. They put the baby on your chest. It was awesome. I saw her, and I saw this magnificent being, and I said, it's my daughter, it's my daughter. And it was just great, because before, in my unconscious mind, was a lot of pain and burden that I learned, from my past. Like for my mother, for her, having children was like a punishment. And I think that I played that. And then when I cleaned it through all this year of this work, I was able to see my daughter as a gift and connect with her in higher and higher levels of love.
Well, that's what an awesome gift to give yourself,
yes,
to give your daughter, and to give the world, because you're doing that piece of work opens a space on another level for every mother and daughter that's ever had conflict to be able to clean out that conflict. So that's awesome.
Yes, and it was every day we did 2 hours. I did a little talking, and then we did the reality management. Then one day the mind shifter, and then the next day the breathing. And they're so smart. She's so fast in getting the idea. And when we did the love exchange exercise, that she started feeling the energy, I could see her face changing, the expression in her eyes. She was mesmerized, like this. But it was a child. I saw her face. It was like seeing a baby moving her little lips and, those facial expression. It was amazing for me to have that experience with her. Then we did the mind shifter, and she was also very impacted to see how a little phrase brought so much forth. And then we did the breathing, and next day she was able to bend her knee because she was having trouble walking. And I said, Lucy, you're bending your knee. She says, yes, Mommy. We were just in silence for a moment.
That's so cool. Well, congratulations, Mom, your work. And, of course, one of the reasons why she would grasp it so quickly and understand it is because now it's radiating from your genetics to her genetics. And now, on another level, with the two of you and the resonance that happens, it will tend to start to open your whole family system to that.
I see. was amazing. And then at the airport again to say goodbye, we did the love exchange first, and we hugged, and I saw her, and all these feelings, and I said to myself, every day is the best day of our lives. That came to my mind. Every day, every moment is the best moment of our lives.
The best one yet, with better to come.
Yep.
Yes. Cool. Well, every day while you were there, we were holding you in our hearts, and the whole community was holding the space. We talked about you several different times on the show, and some of the things you had gone through, and so we were just delighted to be there and to be part of your community and part of your support.
Yes, thank you. Me too.
Very cool. Well, is there anything else we can support you with?
Well, I'm gonna talk to find a place for the supporting group. It's I'm even more committed now to continue with the work. So as soon as I have an answer, I will let you know, guys, and then we can invite everybody to come to the support group.
Fabulous. All right, Nene, you have a blessed day. It's awesome what you're doing.
Bye. Hugs.
Bye-bye. Blessings. So cool to watch somebody kick in and do their work, and the changes it makes in family systems is just awesome. And so, nice work. So, Jeannie, we've got some other callers.
Do. Area code 517, you're on the air.
Well, hello there.
Hey, Rex, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic, Michael. Thank you. And thank you, Jeannie. And I see your throat getting healthier and healthier and stronger and clearing all that energy that whatever it is that you're doing. So thank you for, sticking in there and continuing the process. You've had a lot on your plate, as I understand. A couple things, actually. I'm doing the support group. We're having our support group, and we've changed the format a little bit, so I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. We're listening to Kim, we basically, the way he runs his support group, doing the video first. We're going to start doing that. So we're going to be doing a 7 to 9:30, and for the first hour, we'll be watching the first part of codependency to interdependency, and that's exciting. Also, I have a Y workshop that I'm teaching on the 5th of February, and I'll be getting you that information soon, so it can be posted on the website. And then I have a Mind Shifters and possibly Healing Through Relationships. We haven't sealed that yet, but the Mind Shifters I'll also be doing in February. So they can find that on your website. We'll get that information to you, not to take up time on the program because we have quite a few callers. I wanted to mention also, right in line with Nene, which, every time I hear Nene and I hear you speak of her, it's just inspiring. Truly inspiring. So I just want to mention that, and I really appreciate all the work she's doing and her communications and such. I have had some very powerful healings happening. I also participated in the 40-day excursion, 5 a day, and I did that I started a little late, so I finished it into the new year. I don't know when it was, the 12th or the 14th, something like that I finished. And very, very powerful. It was very challenging at times, but exciting. And I saw during that time, my son, who was doing much better, had been going back and forth between Mom and I, Mitzi, and had been having challenges. He'd usually have one of us that he would be frustrated with and upset with, and just, my son's 24, and he's had some challenges, but he's on the mend, and so that's very beautiful to see. But he switched from being very frustrated and upset with me and not speaking to me to actually opening up communication that I don't think we've ever had before. So.
Cool, that's fabulous.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a very challenging time. Obviously you know a lot more than, the listeners do, but just to share that it's, do the inner work, and when you started talking about how we hook into experiences, and I had a fair amount of guilt and regrets and feelings that inhibited my ability and actually even blocked my ability to connect with my son today, now. And I mean not now, but during that duration of time. And it got in the way. And I just kept, because I couldn't communicate with him because he wasn't doing that. I couldn't, meaning he wasn't interacting with me. I was willing to, but I had to just really go within and do the work inside. It was very healing and very powerful, and the reason I'm even mentioning it is because of that. I started doing just really devoted to it, and there was so many things that I had kind of just set aside and lost in the the idea of who I thought I was. And all of a sudden, I just shared my heart with him one day, and we just had a conversation. I just said, I just feel really sad about how, I raised you. I mean, I feel I did a good job in many ways, but I just feel really sad that I regret not spending time with you. I regret, the times I could have been with you. And I just shared really honestly with him, and it just opened up, and it's just amazing. And now I see that happening similar to what he was doing with me. It's now happening with him and Mitzi. And so it's been very challenging.
Well,
beautiful.
With Mitzi, and oftentimes what a child will do in order to have some safe space is they'll transfer all the painful realities they have from one parent to the other, so that everything is the one parent's fault and the other one is the innocent one. And you may be experiencing that dynamic, and that month that he spent at Heartland, though he was in overwhelmed resistance, he was building brain cells. He'd send me reports every day about what he was understanding from the videos and such. He would email me, and even though almost every email when we talk about it, he'd say, "Yeah, and I don't believe a word you said, and you're crazy." He's building brain cells, and so I just told the space that this will be another temporary move that's happening as he transfers that stuff into the space where he can actually face it directly within himself rather than indirectly through projection, and be able to move on in his life. That's awesome.
Well, it's beautiful, and that's what I see happening. And I've been able to step back enough to realize how important with Nene and what she's doing with her daughter and her inner work, and seeing the things she's seeing. It's just, I see a repetition in it. And one of the things I did want to mention, like you were speaking of from a different perspective, is that when these issues start to surface and when they come up, and these realities that we have held in containment, when they surface, it can be very challenging to see through them. And we are seeing as though through a glass darkly. And I love that. A long time ago when you used to teach the Y workshop, you used to use the glasses, and you had those really colored glasses with the funny design all around them. And you used to put them on, and you'd say, what happened to all of you? You're all very yellow now, and that's a great example. And if we have to somehow, one of the things that we have the opportunity to do is to step outside of the experience we're having, to see the hooks, and the worksheets process does that, being attentive to the breathing and just paying attention and realize, gosh, it isn't really what we think it is. And it's the pictures and ideas and experiences we're having inside, and it's projected outside. And when we can move those out of the way, the world outside really does appear to change. And I just want to really support that in all of us that are having challenges with our family members or a partner or a friend or anyone. If we do the inner work and we do the forgiveness process as it is taught by Yeshua, we make those changes and our external world changes. So thanks for allowing me to have a moment to share, and I know there were other callers, so I'm going to let you get back to that, Michael and Jeannie. God bless you. I love you, and great work.
Thank you.
Okay, God bless you in what you're doing, and we hold the space for the next level in that whole family healing process.
Thank you. Bless.
Jeannie.
Okay, our next caller, area code 267. You're on the air.
Hello.
Hi.
267, where are you calling from? And give us a name. First name's all we need.
Okay. Melinda.
Hi, Melinda. Welcome to the show. Where are you calling from?
Pennsylvania.
Say again?
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. All right. Well, how can we support you? How did you hear about the work we're doing?
I was actually on Blog Talk Radio, and I seen the show, so I just clicked on the link, which took me to the page, to your page.
Oh, cool. Well, welcome. Glad you're here. You know, you can go to our website, whyagain.com. You can download our book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again, free. The whole forgiveness technology from the Aramaic is there. And, if it's your first time on the show, recognizing that forgiveness is not about I'm going to let you off the hook for what's happening inside of me, but rather I'm going to process and deal with what's happening inside of me and remove what didn't belong. That's the whole foundation of our work, and then there are a whole series of tools that have been developed out of that basic principle. So glad you're here. Have you tapped into the worksheet processes yet?
Not really. I should be.
Okay. Well, you know where it is when you're ready. The right-hand side of the homepage on whyagain.com, there's a link that says Download Worksheets, and just click on that link. And the first 4 links will give you the story of how the forgiveness process works. It's actually chapter 24 from my book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? The second link is the actual worksheet itself, the how-to of forgiveness. And the third and fourth links are 2 radio shows where we walk somebody through the whole worksheet process personally. So you can, take the worksheet, read the chapter in the book, start doing the worksheet, and then listen to the radio show where we're walking somebody, giving somebody instructions to walk through the whole worksheet process as you're doing it yourself, and that way you've got a personal guide. And then if there are any refinements or questions that come up from that, we're here 5 days a week, an hour a day, to have a personal conversation with you and support you in that. So is there a question or a thought that you've got in particular for us today?
Yeah, I actually do have a question.
Okay.
I wanted to know if you believe that other forces that are not natural can actually control someone's life.
Well, I think that, my background's in physics with a side study or in electronics with a side study in physics. And so I always go back to the energetic dynamics of what happens. And let's say I've got a television set sitting here, and it has a regular, UHF television tuner. I can listen to channel 2, channel 3, channel 4, up to channel 13. But I can't get channel 26. I can't get channel 200. I can't get channel 400. I can't get what's happening on the cable that's running by my house because I don't have a tuning mechanism. I don't have a space for it to link in or latch on, as it were. And so my offering would be that it's exactly the same. Nothing outside of you can control you but through what you hold inside of you. So if some kind of, let's say I go into the office and people are really negative and there's a lot of gossip and that sort of thing, and I go into upset about that negativity and that gossip, it's because I have a tuning mechanism in me for upset and gossip, and I have pain attached to it. So as I start to chip away with the forgiveness process at that which is in me, that disappears, and I'll sit and watch the person or the persons who are gossiping and, all of that, and I'll just have no response whatsoever because there's nothing in me left to hook into it. So can somebody's energy be controlled by something outside of them? Not unless they have a similar resonating frequency in themselves. And you are always in control of what resonating frequencies you have in you. If there's something in you through which you are controlled, then when you apply forgiveness to that in you and remove it, that's the end of that control of you. Does that make sense?
I think everything made sense, except for the forgiveness part. So I really don't understand the part of forgiveness and what that actually has to do with outside forces controlling your life.
Okay, well, let's imagine I have in my television set, we'll go back to that analogy, I have a tuning mechanism for channel 2.
Mm-hmm.
If I go into my television set and I cut out the tuning coil for channel 2, I'm never going to receive channel 2 again.
Mm.
That would be analogous to forgiveness. You go back to Job 2,000 years ago, he gives us a very powerful lesson. He says, that which I feared most has come upon me. If I have a tuning mechanism for fear, then anything down that can resonate that fear, I'm going to link into. Forgiveness is the Aramaic technology, and that's the worksheet, those 4 links I was telling you about. Forgiveness is the Aramaic technology with which you go in and cut that out. You remove that from yourself. The world that wants to control us installs these tuning mechanisms in us and then controls us all our lives through them. They don't want us to know that those things can be removed, and so we've had a false idea of forgiveness given to us. I let you off the hook for what's happening inside of me, and then I've forgiven is what the world says, because, of course, it's all your fault that I'm feeling this. That worksheet that I told you about, if you go to whyagain.com, under download worksheets, those first 4 links, start putting the pen to the paper with that, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. It's the way you remove that tuning mechanism in you, that coil, so to speak, that gives somebody control over you.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
It does now. I have another question towards the question where you mentioned, or the answer where you given to me, where you said they place things in our lives and they don't, there's a way to remove them, but they don't let you know, the way to remove them. And there's the way that they can control you. Can horoscopes actually be one of those things?
Say it again.
I said, can horoscopes actually be one of those things?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anything that somebody can use as a vehicle to enter into someone else's mind. I don't have much respect for the way the Greeks translated the Aramaic scriptures, but there is one piece of the puzzle that they understood very well, and they said, guard the portals of the mind.
Mm-hmm.
There are many different belief systems that people can use to manipulate others and to implant ideas in their minds. And because we're creative beings and we create with our ideas, then it seems that idea takes over. In past times where they understood this energetic dynamic, they, for instance, warned people about psychics. Mm-hmm. And the psychic is someone who has in them certain energies that match, let's say, everybody's got a file in their mind on relationships. Someone who works from the psychic realm, let's say they have a file in them where they've been through this horrible, terrible divorce. It was destructive to the family. They went broke over it. The lawyers got all the money. It was just horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who's got a relationship problem goes to that psychic, and there's a good chance that psychic is going to project what's in his or her brain cell structure into this other person's mind. Oh, you're going to have this horrible divorce. It's going to destroy you. And if people buy that, then they are going to behave according to the hypnotic state of those ideas. Whereas that person who never went to see the psychic might happen to tune into Mind Shifter Radio and go, oh, there's a process called forgiveness. I've been having a trauma with my spouse, and, I've had some anger with them. Oh, there's a way I can remove my anger, and so that becomes a vehicle. They go check out whyagain.com. They download a worksheet, bang, bang, bang. They go through it. They get rid of their anger, and all of a sudden they're back in delight and awesome relationship with their spouse.
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like a
careful who you open your mind to.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to open your mind to someone, you want to open it to someone who's doing what you want to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go to somebody who's on their 17th divorce and is dissing, people they're in relationship with for someone to support you in healing through your relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It makes a lot of sense, especially where you talk about psychics, fortune tellers, and, horoscopes. So that really helped me with the question that I've asked. I'm going to try to do the best I can to avoid these from now on. I'm not perfect, but hopefully today will actually be the beginning, of forgiveness, or pretty much starting over.
Awesome. Well, please go to whyagain.com, whyagain.com, and about the sixth link down, it says download worksheets. Download those first 4 links, read the chapter on forgiveness, start doing the worksheet. Listen to the radio show. The third and fourth link are 2 different radio shows. You can just right-click on those links and say save to and put it somewhere on your computer where you'll know what it is. Mm-hmm. And then as you sit and do the worksheet, listen to the MP3 of the radio show, and you'll have personal guidance to go through the whole worksheet process.
I can download this to like a computer, right?
Exactly. Yes. Mm-hmm. And the radio shows are in an MP3 format. So once you download them to your computer, you can actually put them on your phone. You can put them on your netbook or your tablet or an MP3 player. Mm-hmm. You can round in your pocket, and when you go out jogging, you can listen to it and really get the sense of how the whole process works. And of course, we do have a whole array of DVDs and CDs. They can also be ordered from the site if somebody wants to take that to the next level. We have, we're getting close to where we've got about 250 radio shows on the website too. So you can go into the archives, and they're titled with different, what the different shows have been about. So you can browse through those 250 or so different radio shows and start downloading free and listening to those as well.
So I'm on this site that you speak about, so I don't know if they're going to let me download them here, but I'm going to ask because I don't have a personal computer.
Right.
So
well,
I'll just get permission.
You can go to the library. Most libraries have a computer you can use. You can, if you, say for instance, you go to the worksheet, you can double-click on it, and it will open on the computer and then just print it.
Like paper?
You can print the book.
Like just print it like paper, like print up paper, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks for your call. And as you start doing the worksheets, please, any questions or refinements that you need, anything you need support with, that's what we're here 5 days a week to do, and we're delighted to be doing it.
Thank you.
Okay. Blessings. Jeannie? Anything in the chat room? We got another caller.
We do have another caller. There's nothing going on in the chat room right now. Everybody's listening.
Can I just shoot something in here, Michael?
Oh, please do. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
It's something that came up in a session this morning, and I just wanted to share it. I have to get going again because I had to squeeze extra people in today. But when I was talking with someone for the umpteenth time about the problem is inside of me, and the problem is not the person on the outside or the thought or behavior or the lack of the behavior that I wanted that triggered it. And we were discussing this back and forth, and they just kept saying, but what about, and didn't they really do this horrible thing? And the image came to me of this person wearing an enormous quiver on his back full of arrows made of anger. And I just said to him, getting rid of the target doesn't empty the quiver. And he got it.
Uh-huh.
So I just wanted to throw that out there. Getting rid of the target doesn't empty the quiver.
Right, precisely. And, of course, most everybody says, well, if I just get rid of you, then I'm going to be finished with this problem. It's like, good luck. Yeah, great analogy, great visual for people to get. Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome. Have a wonderful show, and I'll be back again on Wednesday.
Okay, you're appreciated. We appreciate sharing the plan with you. Blessing. Bye-bye.
Okay, our next caller is area code 970. You're on the air.
Hey, Jeannie and Michael, it's Carrie.
What's the name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, how you doing, Carrie?
Good. I have a question that I would just like a little bit of, a little more discussion, Michael, from you on. And two things that you've said. I'm studying the work a lot, so we have those three levels, the three stress levels with our power person. When we're in our power person dynamic and we're at low stress level, medium, and high, then we behave in the same way that we did in reacting to our power person. And then you
actually, hold it, Carrie. Actually, that's just a little bit off.
Okay, good. That's why I'm calling, because I want a little more enlightenment here.
Yeah. The third dynamic is when I'm ultra stressed, what I will do is I will do what my power person did to me that I hated the most.
Right.
Their behavior and play it out. And the reason for that is because the power person, usually a parent, is like a god to the child. So this little 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10-year-old child looks at the power person under stress, and when the power person needs to, for whatever's going on inside of them, overpower the child, when the stress was really up and the chips were down, what did that power person do? Well, let's say if they raged, then I, as the child, hated it when my power person raged at me, but here I'll be 40 years later, and I'm under stress, and I'll look back in my memory bank and go, oh, how did God handle it when they needed to win over me? Oh, they raged. Or,
right.
If my power person accused me, I was an innocent child, I did everything right, I did my best, but they always had an accusation for me. They always had something to say that would put me down. So here I'll be and make me wrong. So here I'll be, 40 years later, and the stress is up and the chips are down, and I'll turn to the person that I'm interacting with, and I'll be putting them down and making them wrong, because my reality structure holds that's the way to win when the stress is up and the chips are down.
Right. And I want to ask you a little bit more about that, because that's my second question, I think. But we also act out stress level 1 and stress level 2, right, which is what we did to appease our power person, and then what we did to get back at them. We tend to act those things out in relationships as well. I mean, I know I have, so.
Right. Well, just, again, a little bit of refinement. The first dynamic is when there's no stress, I'll do whatever I did to get along with my power person. And not necessarily appeasing, just what I did to get along. How did I have a good time with them? The second dynamic, when stress starts to build, as opposed to getting even with them, it's what I did to resist and to survive with them.
Okay.
And then the third one is, when ultra-stressed, I'll do whatever they did that I hated the most.
Okay.
And you can just watch somebody under stress, and people are often very amazed when they don't understand this principle. You watch them when they're under stress and they do this behavior, and then you just flat out factually say to them, how did it feel when your power person did thus and so? And they're like, well, my power person has been dead for 20 years. How did you know they did that? It's like, well, I just watched you under stress. I know exactly what your power person did. And people's jaws.
Well, so then the other thing you talk about is this key, which I guess is the third level with the power, what our power person did to control us. That is sort of the key. That's what we act out to our partner when and it's horrible, it's like, oh my God, even completely understanding that. I don't think I have all the brain cells yet to completely get it, but I realize I can see that that's what I've done. And so I guess I'm trying to understand, you talked about that as sort of the key in the codependency dynamics.
Well, one of the other things that's an important piece of the puzzle is the person who's doing the power person behavior, if you tell them up front and they're in any kind of blockage, which most everybody is, they don't believe that they do that. They hold a different reality. They're in blockage of truth about their behavior, and they hold a different reality. There's a story in the book about Richard where he's sitting in a restaurant, he's having a cup of coffee, and he spilled some coffee on his saucer, and the waitress comes over, and he's going to reach for his coffee, and she takes it away from in front of him, and he just goes into a fit. And in his mind, his reality, what's served up to him is, I'm just protecting what's mine. When you look from the outside, what he's doing is becoming verbally and emotionally abusive toward the waitress. But he doesn't see it as verbal and emotional abuse, which is what his power person did to him. He sees it as protecting himself. As the power person, when they did it to us, saw it in some way, shape, or form as protecting themselves or protecting us or helping us or supporting us, and being totally oblivious and totally unconscious to what they were actually doing. So that living in blockage of truth, the mind makes up an hallucination. You know, how many of us as kids, when we got hit and knocked around, heard the words, this hurts me more than it hurts you. It's like, right. That's a story that a person tells themselves in order to avoid the truth of exactly what it is that they're doing. So the parent who always makes the child wrong lives in a world of, well, you know, if I teach this child when they're doing what I perceive to be wrong, that they're wrong, then they'll do better. So they see it as a benefit that they're offering to the child. They don't have any comprehension that every time the child turns around, they're being dissed for this, dissed for that, dissed for this, dissed for that. And a lot of kids, ultimately, who are good kids, end up going, well, if I'm going to be accused of it, I might as well do it. And then 30, 40, 50 years later, the mind of that child will hallucinate reasons. Well, I'm only trying to straighten you out. I'm only trying to fix it for you. I'm only trying to take care of you, when they're doing the same thing of dissing and putting that person down. They don't see it for what it is. And until one becomes willing to have feedback and to be able to see it for what it is, the mind has its hallucination. It has its story that it blocks the truth out with. And so one who lives in blockage of truth holds a lie and believes that the lie is the truth, and will defend the lie to the death. They will argue, fight, scream, and rage, throw somebody out of their lives to defend that what they did was the right thing, even though it was exactly what their power person did to them that they hated the most. It's called living in blockage of truth. And the antidote for blockage of truth is love of truth. When I love the truth enough, when I say, okay, I didn't see it that way, but let's look from a neutral point of view. I'm ready to collapse my story with forgiveness and look. Then that person can start to see just what it is that they've said and done. Otherwise, it's not visible. Does that make sense? Are you breathing?
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I was trying to get my mute off. You know, it's very, it's just amazing how deep that goes. You know, how, boy, we can see ourselves doing that in relationships and see the other people doing it to us. And then, you know, I guess what I'm asking myself, because I'm becoming so much more aware of, you know, behaviors that I've carried through life with me, you know, how do I clear those and forgive those and kind of get to the next, you know.
Right. And, you know, that's where that African proverb that you've heard us talk about, if you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far together, go together. What the non-being mind will do when it's doing the power person dynamics, it will tend to gather in relationship with others who do similar power person dynamics. So everybody will agree that it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And you need to be willing to go into a community of support where you can be confronted on that. And then if you're going to change it, instead of destroy everything around you, you know, then you have to get to the point where you're willing to receive feedback, and instead of attacking the source of the feedback and making them the problem, you stop and go, oh, I'm in hostility. I've got something that I need to deal with here. Let me let go of my attack from you. What was that you said again? Tell me again. That wasn't the way I saw it, but maybe there's something I'm in blockage of truth of. Maybe there's something I don't know about me. Then I get to go, oh, now I see, gee, I can step outside of the situation with you, and I can see when I went after that waitress with such venom in my voice, wow, I can see how that was really attack. And here I thought I was just protecting what was mine, because when I was a kid, people always took things from me. So I was just, and so there's a space to start to shift that dynamic.
Right. And so is there a way to work on it with the forgiveness sheets, or is it just like?
Absolutely, you can do that. And, we actually do an intensive called Codependence to Interdependence. It's the first intensive we do each summer. And I remember several years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, David was at this intensive. He may be able to share with us because he was actually directly involved in the situation that happened. But we had about 20 people in intensive here in Florida. And we were getting ready to do some hands-on exercises. And there was a woman who had picked a partner, and all of a sudden she decided she didn't, if I remember correctly the details, all of a sudden she decided she didn't want to be with that partner, that she wanted to be in partnership with David. And so the energy got pretty hot. The stuff came up. One of the ideas of an intensive is to stir things and let's do real life here. And all of a sudden, everybody's stuff was up and everybody's power person dynamic was up, which is part of the intention and the commitment in an intensive to get those things stirred. So we processed through it. This was an evening session. We processed through and called it a night. The next morning in our morning session, we started to talk about that dynamic. And everybody in the room was able to go around and say, my God, I could see how when that conflict started, I did exactly what my power person did. Everybody in the room was defined precisely, totally, completely by their power person dynamic, except for one person, or so they thought. And we're just about out of time, but this one person said, well, I didn't even get involved in it. I just went and took my partner and went off in the other room and we did the exercise. And his jaw just about went through the floor where he said, yeah. And when you were a kid, what did your dad do? He had already shared his dad was his partner. What did your dad do when the stress was up and the chips were down? It was like, oh, my God, he went to work. He left. He did exactly what his power person did. Under stress, unless we're really conscious, that's what we'll tend to do. And, Carrie, I would love to carry on the conversation. We're down to about 20 seconds, so I'm going to have to close out. But it'd be awesome to call in and be the first caller for tomorrow, and we'll continue this conversation.
Thank you.
Okay, blessings, everybody. Have the best year yet of your eternal life. We're in Sarasota tonight with a support group. Come join us. Bring a stranger to the show tomorrow. Have the best year yet of your eternal life. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Mind Shifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeannie, who present that internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeannie are here every Monday through Friday on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Michael and Jeannie, please visit www.whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.